Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and the day is finally here. It is finally the time that we get to take a look at the Titanic Creations Articulated Pulgazary, and this is definitely a very exciting release for many because this is, when it comes to obscure kaiju, like, it doesn't get a whole lot more obscure than Pulgazary, and this is super cool on their part to have created 3 different versions of this figure, which we can see. I actually have all 3 variants here to take a look at with you guys. I currently have them all stacked up on top of each other. What I'm going to do is bring the camera back down a little bit, and then we'll bring each of them in, kind of get a little sneak peek of them. So first of all, this variant, which is just the Pulgazary figure, you can see has more of like a very cool gold look to it. We've also got all sorts of fun extras in here, and as per usual, when it comes to Titanic Creations, the packaging, the box art and everything is off the charts. We can basically see, obviously, a flag here, and if you have seen the film, you're definitely going to recognize the overall appearance of everything that's going on the box. But you can also see, again, we've got like the sort of like earthy area here, and then of course the Pulgazary figure there in the background. And then if we turn to the side, you can see more incredible art and everything. Of course, the same for the back, which shows an absolutely epic image here, again, of Pulgazary. And then here on the other side, a little bit more, kind of like a little explosion down here. And then up at the top, again, even though it's currently upside down, we can see the Titanic Creations logo, and then of course Pulgazary. And I think, but I'm not entirely positive, that the box art is the same all the way through. Yeah, it definitely looks to me to be the same. I'm not noticing any differences. I don't know if the images on the back are different or if they are the same. Actually, these are slightly different. You can see a different shade of color for those two, so that's pretty cool, which means that the Red Scare version back here should, yes, by all rights, I was going to say have the Red Scare look on the back, and that means that, again, if you are unfamiliar with these releases, this is the classic version over here. So what I'm going to do is pop all of these boxes open, and we're going to bring everything in and check them all out from there. So there we go. We now have everything out. We have it all here, basically set up before us. And man, what an incredible sight straight out of the packaging to see all of these different figures here, loose and on the prowl, I guess you could say, basically about to go crashing through all of these buildings here. But what's really cool about this is if you actually do grab each of the different variants, you almost get to create your own city here, as there are so many buildings that you would then have in your collection. And this also almost kind of gives you a little bit of a preview of the upcoming pack that Titanic Creations is working on when it comes to their city pack that they are making, where they're basically going to have a whole bunch of different diorama pieces that will be coming out again at some point in the future. So definitely hyped for that. And of course, having all of this stuff here is like an early sneak peek kind of feel as far as what that's going to be like. But as you can obviously see, again, like, Titanic Creations is killing it right now. When it comes to creating super articulated kaiju figures, I'd be very, very hard-pressed to pick anybody that's doing it better. And yes, I would say even including Haya in the conversation, because even though Haya's doing a great job, like, I really feel like Titanic Creations goes above and beyond to make sure that their customer is happy and to make sure you get the most bang for your buck. And you can very clearly see that here when it comes to everything that is included in these figures and these sets. So if we go ahead and actually kind of move this stuff just a little bit out of the way, we'll get a look at everything that is included with these figures. And I'm hoping that the other ones in the background aren't going to be kind of like a little bit of a distraction here when checking these figures out, because there's just so many here to go over. So starting with the initial Pulgazary, we can see again that the sculpt is absolutely fantastic on this figure. When it comes to fine detail, look at how impressive this is. There is so much to be found on the figure as a whole. And when it comes to the way I would want my Pulgazary to appear, this is, again, absolutely awesome. So starting up here at the head sculpt, we can see the head sculpt is really well done. We have the mouth in an open position. We've got the teeth kind of hanging out here. They are painted with a gold. We can see the fangs and everything here of our figure. We as well have the tongue on the inside of the mouth. That is painted with a nice pinkish tone. There is a nice gloss coat in there as well. What's cool, of course, with this being super articulated is you do have an articulated jaw, which you can see, so you can close the mouth if you would like to, or again, open it back up to make sure that our Pulgazary looks as intimidating as possible. Again, moving through the course of the figure, we can see the nostrils right here. We can also see the texturing of the face is really impressive. We have a very dark grayish tone bordering on a black, I would say, for the primary body color. The eyes also look really cool, and especially considering there is a little variation of color, as we have like a dark red and then a little bit of a brighter red if my camera, there we go, I was going to say if my camera decides to focus, a little bit of a brighter red, and there also looks to be like a little spot in there of a different tone for like the pupil, giving it kind of a creepy look as a whole. Definitely quite intimidating. And then as we lead up here into the top of the head, we can see the horns kind of sticking out of the top of the head of Pulgazary, and we can see they are painted with a gold, and that's pretty much the theme of this one. As you move through the body, there's a whole lot of gold, and we can also see that here basically running down along the spinal column with these very cool spikes that we have. Those ridges moving along the back of the figure are all painted with a gold, and all of the paintwork looks really good, really precise as a whole. We can also see again the texturing is so vibrant as you move down through the body. You can just really see how impressive each and every area is, and how again vibrant as a whole it is. It really pops on the sculpt, and just how much time and effort went into sculpting this out. And what's really cool is these figures were sculpted by the one and only Dope Pope, so you know you are getting the best version of this kaiju possible if it's sculpted by Dope Pope. I honestly, in my opinion, feel like nobody sculpts kaiju better than him. But as you move around the front, we continue to have again that same style of texturing to the body. We can also see again that we have the kind of huge spikes sticking up here out of the upper arms of Pulgazary. We can get a nice glimpse of the muscle definition as well as the skin texture. There's almost even like some kind of bumpy osteoderms and stuff as you move down through the body. Leading down into the arms, you've got another kind of spike sticking out here of the arm. Again, another gold version of a spike. We've got some more really cool fine detail leading all the way down into the hand, and same deal, of course, for the opposing arm. Leading down into the hands, we can see the fingers sculpted really quite nicely, as well as, again, the texturing of the skin leading through those fingers. We can even kind of make out the knuckles a little bit, and even the bones kind of moving through the hand, which is really impressive. We've got the nails sculpted out quite nicely. They have a kind of a genuine sharp look to them, and they as well have that gold paint to them. And then as we move back into the chest and stomach, leading down, we've got more of that gold running along the kind of armored area here for our Pulgazary. And as we move to the side, you can get a better look. Well, if I can get this arm out of the way, some of the joints may be a little stiff because, again, straight out of the packaging. But if you look here at the side, we can see the skin texture as well. Again, more of those sort of bumpy scales, those bumpy osteoderms. As we lead around to the back of the figure, you have more of those ridges following down along the spinal column. And again, the very impressive fine detail. Like when you get nice and close and my camera focuses correctly, there we go, you can really see how unreasonably impressive the sculpt is. And man, it must have taken Dope Pope so long to sculpt this out and to be able to include every detail like he has. And I love just how impressive the final product is continuously from Titanic Creations. Some of the best kaiju ever are definitely coming from Titanic Creations right now as far as these figures go. As you move down, you continue to have this very armored sort of a look to the body of Pulgazary. We have more gold here in the knees with, again, kind of two little like spikes leading out. We move down the shins. We continue to have that sort of armored look. And then we move down into the feet. We've got the toes sculpted out. Obviously, we've got 3 toes here in the front, 1 in the back. All of the nails, again, painted with that gold, which does have a very nice kind of metallic shine. And you can see the skin texture as well as the toes themselves are sculpted quite beautifully. More kind of osteoderms and stuff moving through. And then again, the nail here on the back sculpted out quite nicely, as well as painted again with that gold. And then we also have a little tail for Pulgazary as we lead out, and you can see just a little curve out here at the end, and again, more of those gold ridges following down along the back of the spinal column, and some more nice texturing to the skin here on the underside. And then basically that's really about it. Of course, you're not going to see much in the way of any sort of difference when it comes to side for a superposable figure like this. As far as articulation goes, though, of course this figure is articulated to the max. So we already, actually let's just try to get this arm down and out of the way a little bit. We already saw the articulated jaw, which goes up and down and can actually open pretty wide, which we can see, and also closes nicely. We also have neck articulation up and down and can, of course, swivel. If you'd like to turn the head completely around, you actually can, and you can also get like little head tilts, which shows you again how impressive the articulation is in the neck area. We obviously have shoulder articulation, which can go forward and back. Can actually go all the way up, I would imagine. Yeah, it can probably swivel all the way around or close to all the way around. It can definitely come out away from the body. I don't want to force it because, again, it's straight out of the packaging, so it is a little bit stiff, but it obviously comes out away from the body, which we can see right there. We can very clearly see the joint up there as well. Maybe this arm will be a little bit more agreeable when it comes to showing this off. So there we go. That gives you a good shot of the arm, straight out. And I don't recommend doing what I just did. Basically, like, if you are going to get these figures out of the packaging and they are a little stiff, you definitely want to warm them up with some hot water or, a hair dryer, something like that. You definitely don't want to force them the way I just did, kind of setting a bad example. Well, now that arm's kind of stuck there. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to break it. But as we move down, we obviously have another section of articulation here in the elbow, which can swivel. And yes, we can see we have the joint for the elbow to kind of move forward and back, which we can see. And then we've got wrist articulation, which if I can get the arm to stop moving, I can show you. Again, nice swivel action there for the wrist. And then again, forward and back when it comes to that area, which we can see, again, giving you even more possibilities as far as how you can pose your figure. You do also have midsection articulation, which can go left and right. Yep, it can actually swivel all the way around if you choose to go that route. I don't know if it has any forward and back, kind of just a little bit you can see going forward and back, not a whole lot as far as that goes. And then as we lead down, we've got, of course, the hip articulation, forward and back, which works really nicely and does have a little wiggle room left and right, which we can see kind of out away from the body, allowing you to move the legs out and then bring them back in, which is really nice. We also have knee articulation, which is definitely going to be really stiff. So let's try the other knee. Oh, there we go. This one's a little bit smoother right now. So obviously we can move the knee back and then again out. And yep, you can swivel the knee a little bit as well. So very nice in that area. And then you of course have the foot, which can go up and down really quite nicely and can also kind of swivel and also tilt a little bit. So pretty sweet as far as the articulation goes on this figure. And then finally the tail, which can definitely swivel left and right. Kind of seems to have a little up and down movement as well. Not a whole lot, but definitely, again, just that little extra bit of articulation is nice. There's not a whole lot you can do when it comes to a tail that small. But articulation-wise, it's really nicely done. But man, is that figure ever gorgeous. Like sculpt-wise and just paint-wise, everything is so nice on that figure. Another thing that's actually really nice that I noticed, straight out of the box that's super impressive about these is their balance. Like I didn't have to adjust anything. They came right out of the packaging, and even if they were kind of awkwardly positioned, they're standing so nicely for me. Also included in here, we have a baby Pulgazary, which we can see. Again, looks absolutely awesome. Very much so resembling the adult version as far as the overall appearance, but obviously with very baby-like features, even a little pudginess to them, which is pretty cute. And again, this one obviously follows the same color scheme as we had on the adult with the kind of black or dark grayish tones, almost like a dark bluish gray sort of tone. Like a dark blue, bordering on pavement gray, I would say. But we also have, again, the gold coloration throughout. You can see the nails painted with the gold, the belly and chest, as well as the spikes kind of leading off of the arms, the spikes on the top of the head. You can also see some of the teeth right there. And then, of course, you also have more leading down to the legs, as well as the nails in the feet. Again, I think I said the nails in the hands. And then, of course, the spikes following down along the back of our baby Pulgazary. And obviously the skin texture, again, looks extremely impressive the entire way through. We also have the eyes painted, which you can see. And again, even for such tiny eyes, they actually included the variation of color like we saw on the adult version, which is crazy, crazy impressive. Of course, no articulation or anything on the babies, but still looks awesome. On top of that, if I can remember where I put them, there we go. We do have alternate hands. So these hands are just kind of open a little bit more so than, actually these ones, the other ones are open a little bit more so than these ones. These ones are just slightly closed, like they're trying to grasp or grab something, which is pretty cool. And then there are also these hands. So these hands are obviously closed into a fist. So if you want one hand kind of in the position of like a fist so he can punch a different kaiju or a different Pulgazary in the face, you can do that. And again, sculpt-wise, paint-wise, everything looks great. On top of that, you actually have, as far as these extras go, you've got little trains in here. So as you can see, again, sculpted nicely, and they do even include some nice paintwork on this with some nice, very cool kind of like bluish green tones for the upper and underside, and then like a tan for the side of the train. And what's really cool, I haven't tried it yet, but I would imagine if you warm it up, maybe you can actually connect the two trains to each other, because you obviously have that kind of peg right there and then the hole, so you can kind of slide the two of them together. And I actually could probably do it without even warming them up, but obviously you can see they're connected right now. But that's super cool, and you actually, for each one, you get 3 different cars here, 3 different areas of your train, and each one comes with that. They are all the same color. They don't look different per variant, which is actually also nice, because then that means if you really want a huge train, you can combine all of them to make one giant train. And then of course, when it comes to the city area of the figure, you can see we've got a really nice building, and I love the fact that they've actually painted this out in a way where we see the building, which looks excellent. Even the texturing of the building, camera focus, there we go. Even the texturing of the building looks excellent, but we can see the windows. Some of the windows actually have lights on, which is really, really neat. Honestly, adding even more realism to this set. You can see as you move through the building overall, again, there are just sporadic windows basically that are lit up, showing you that, you know, some people actually have their lights on. Come on, focus, there we go. Some people have their lights on, some people do not. And when you actually look at the fine detail of the building, how crazy impressive is that? That is super, super impressive, especially just looking at the windows, how highly detailed even the windows are. And of course, it continues on. And if you actually look at the top, you do have the top of the building looking like the way you would see on the top of a building. And then we also have the ability to take it apart so we have some damage, so the top pops off, and then you can see the inside of the building. So when it comes to, you know, creating some really cool dioramas, you'll definitely have the opportunity to do that when it comes to this set. And then it just pops right back on, and your building is then complete again. We obviously can see, as far as this little section, we have like a little area of the city. We've got the road, so if you have some small cars, you can put it on there. And then you've got the 2 slots basically to set your buildings into. And then we also have this other building over here, which is a little bit of a different version as far as the design and appearance compared to the first building we had taken a look at. Also a very different color, and just like with the other one though, you can see again that there are some lights on through the course of the building, and as you move down, again, it looks awesome from every angle. Absolutely phenomenal. These buildings are so cool, and when it comes to anybody that's trying to create any kind of like photography or anything for their kaiju, these are such a great addition. And what's cool I can already see about this one is it has a couple of different areas of damage for the figure. Actually, this one I can already feel just by me pressing on it. It's kind of trying to come off. So we can pull the first piece off. That comes off and again exposes the inside of the building. And I kind of like, it almost looks like the inside of the building is like a little bit burnt, like the destruction of this, you know, kaiju coming through the city is absolutely tearing up and burning up the entire inside of the building. That's just my kind of takeaway from it. We also have this little area up here, which I have to try to pull off. There we go. And you can now see a little bit different. You know, the further up you go, it's still pretty dark like you see down here, but slightly lighter. So maybe it's really on fire down here and hasn't quite reached up here yet, which is pretty cool. And then again, we've got another spot over here. If I can pop this piece out, there we go. And you can now see again the inside of this section of the building looks so cool. And I love that when you actually get nice and close, you can kind of see like stuff inside the building, as well as kind of like the rubble and everything, like how the building's basically just falling apart in there. So incredibly cool. And obviously you now have a destroyed building overall to use in dioramas as well. And of course, each and every one of these different variants of this figure come with these buildings. So now that I have all three, I can create an entire city basically right here, or well, at least a couple buildings worth of the city, again, that are either in good shape with the kaiju approaching or destroyed with the kaiju already here. And then as far as the other ones go, of course, we already know, again, that the trains are all pretty much the same. There's no real differences there. Each of the different variants of our Pulgazary all come with the alternate hands. The Red Scare version, though, as you can see, has a very cool translucency to it. So when it comes to the hands, we can kind of see through them a little bit, and each of the different hands have that. And of course, the Pulgazary itself does. So here is the Red Scare version, which features all of the same fine detail, all of the same, articulation and everything. There's nothing different as far as that goes from one of these figures to the other. So there's no need to really go over any of that stuff again. Basically, the differences would be the color. Although this one has a little bit extra to it because not just color, the body has a little bit of a translucency to it, just like we saw on the hands. The head as well, you can very clearly see again, has that translucency to it. And moving through the body, pretty much everywhere sort of has that look. As far as the very armored areas, you'll see again they still have the gold kind of a look, maybe a slightly different shade of gold compared to what we see on the first version. And the detail looks honestly just as vibrant on this one as it did on the first one, but obviously with again that really cool sort of red translucent look that we have to the skin on this version of the Pulgazary. And overall, again, it looks beyond epic. I really don't know which one I can choose, right off the bat between them. They're all so nicely done. Like, you look at this version and you think, how cool is that? You really would love to have that version, but then we look at this version, again, it just looks so absolutely epic in the best way possible. And of course, we still have the classic version back there. As far as the buildings go on each version, they are obviously the same. There's no differences as far as the sculpt. There's no differences as far as the paint or the damage. They're the same as what we had just seen. And then, of course, we also have the baby Pulgazary. And when it comes to the baby version, now with this one, we have again that kind of red translucency to it. And then again, the gold looks just as far as, the sculpt goes, the same as the first version. The same style of paint where we have the primary body color and then of course the gold and stuff throughout. So it looks just like the first version did, but obviously with the Red Scare variant colors to it. And then when it comes to the classic version, again, the train looks just as it did with the other ones, so no differences there. We again have the alternate hands, which this time are basically just a black with kind of like almost like a silvery tone for the nails on these hands. And then of course our Pulgazary itself, just as I said before, same sculpt, same style to the figure, same articulation, everything is the same except for the coloration. But this one has a much more unique look to the face because we actually have, again, the classic, just like it says, eyes here for the figure, where we have like the white eyes and then the black and then a little white spot there on the eyes there to sort of give it that eye shine kind of a look, very much so resembling the way that the original classic Pulgazary looks. We obviously can see kind of like a little brownish tone there back behind the eyes as well. We have again the tongue painted out there on the inside of the mouth, the teeth again painted with this same kind of very interesting tone of color. Such a weird tone, almost has like a little bit of a goldish look, but almost has a little bit of a silverish look. It's also got kind of like a slight tint of green to it. It's really neat. Of course, the rest of the body again is basically the black, much darker as far as the tone goes compared to what we had seen on the first version of the Pulgazary we had taken a look at. But just like with the others, again, it basically follows the same style as far as the paintwork goes, where we have all of the different spikes and, the ridges moving along the back, the nails, and then the armored areas here, basically all given that alternate tone of color with the primary darker tone basically reserved for the body of the figure, basically like the skin and stuff, and some of the other armored areas like the shin and the thighs and everything. And obviously, again, it's going to have the same articulation throughout, so we don't really need to take a look at that. But as you can see, again, the detailing looks just as impressive, just as vibrant as we had seen on all of the other variants, moving the entire way through this absolutely phenomenal release. Again, when it comes to that classic version, if you really want to get yours to look like it does in the film, this is absolutely your guy here. Again, your go-to version with that classic variant. And then obviously we have our baby as well, again, which now has the same sort of eyes that we see on the adult. And we also, again, have the black tone for the primary body with that same tone of color, again, that we see on the adult, moving through the, spikes and ridges and everything, the nails, through the course of the baby as well, which, again, looks absolutely awesome. And then, of course, the same buildings and everything, just like we had seen on the other variants. So, whew, that was a whole lot to get through when it comes to all three different versions of this figure. So let's go ahead, push all of this stuff back, and we'll get a size. So there we go, we have everything set up, and if you actually look back there, I lined up the road, so now it looks like a very small area of the city, and you can kind of flip-flop your pieces around so that the road matches up, but then the buildings are kind of like, opposite of each other, which gives it more of a, authentic feel, I think. But of course, we bring in our Pulgazary, and you can see the articulation is so smooth on the figure, and again, the balance is great. But if we get a height for the figure, you are looking at about just shy of 7 inches, very close to 7 inches, or around 17.5 centimeters, heading toward 18, but not quite there. And then when it comes to our little baby, about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. For a size comparison, for those of you that always watch my channel, here are our, standard review comparison suspects, as we have Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Back Golovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being, next to our Pulgazary figures from Titanic Creations. And you can see, again, the figure has a very nice, very impressive size to it, but when it comes to a kaiju figure, I would say it's pretty much in the size range you would expect, almost like the standard size range, maybe slightly taller, slightly larger overall. But for different kaiju comparisons to kind of show you that, here is a Playmates Godzilla next to Pulgazary, which we can see again. The Godzilla is a little bit shorter. We've also got a NECA King of the Monsters Godzilla, which you can see again is a little bit shorter. Here is an SH Monster Arts Godzilla, which we can see again a little bit shorter. As I said, it is basically in like that standard size range for your usual kaiju figures, but just a little bit taller, maybe slightly bulkier, kind of making Pulgazary look even more impressive. We also have a Bandai release with Titanosaurus, and here you can see Titanosaurus is roughly the same size, actually slightly taller, but pretty close to the same size. Then when it comes to one of the more recent Bandai Godzilla figures that they've begun releasing, this is the type that you find at Target a lot nowadays, which is a little bit smaller than your standard Godzillas from them. You can very clearly see again is quite a bit smaller than our Pulgazary. We also have the chibi version of the Pulgazary that was released from Titanic Creations, a limited edition that sold out pretty quickly, but also I believe all of these figures are limited edition, so definitely something to keep in mind if you are interested in grabbing them. It's best to get a hold of them as soon as possible. And then the final comparison we have is with the Hiya Toys Godzilla, again the King of the Monsters Godzilla, which is pretty much staring Pulgazary right in the face. And wow, that would be a pretty cool battle to see, a Pulgazary taking on Godzilla. Again, right here, these two look super, super cool next to each other. So Titanic Creations absolutely knocks it out of the park yet again, just like they always do. Always delivering the goods when it comes to kaiju figures, not just with these incredible, again, very obscure, super articulated kaiju figures they've been releasing like Yongari and Gorgo and stuff, but also with their, own original versions like Titanicus and stuff that they have out. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you are interested in general. Again, for kaiju, definitely check out their original kaiju as well. But these Pulgazary are so cool. This is definitely something that I personally never expected to be able to one day own. Would be not just one, but 3 different variants of Pulgazary, which again is a super obscure kaiju. When it comes to giant monster movies, not everyone knows knows of this kaiju, but I absolutely recommend, searching it out and trying to find that film, watching it. Definitely a really cool movie and a really cool kaiju. But now actually having the figure here, again, it is everything that I hoped it would be and so much more. Sculpt-wise, it is fantastic. Definitely looking like Pulgazary quite nicely, and also extremely highly detailed, as it always is when it comes to Titanic Creations and Dope Pope. The sculpt and fine detail is fantastic. It is extremely vibrant and high quality through the entire figure, and is definitely some of the nicest as far as the overall quality goes that I've seen on any articulated kaiju figure to date. The paintwork on all three is also fantastic. You have different variants throughout, all having their own individual likeness and look and feel, which I really love, giving you plenty of different options as far as choosing what version fits you the best, or like me, you can get all three and have yourself a Pulgazary army, and that is definitely not anything to dismiss, no doubt about that. On top of that, you have tons of articulation, allowing you countless possibilities as far as the way you can display and pose the figure, and as per usual, when it comes to Titanic Creations, they always try to give you the best amount of kaiju for your money, but the best amount of extras for your kaiju, as we have quite a bit included with these, like extra hands, as well as trains, which is really cool. You have either 3 different trains if you get all 3 different figures, or you can make just one giant train. And then of course you have the little area there of the city, which is a perfect place to display your figure, but you also have the ability to kind of dissect the buildings a little bit so they look damaged, or to keep them, kind of healthy and original, like our Pulgazary has just kind of walked into the city. It's really your choice, but when it comes to creating displays but also dioramas, these are perfect additions to any collection. So as a whole, I can't begin to tell you how much I recommend this release. It is without question deserving of a place in every kaiju collection. So if you are interested in picking these up, I will include links in the description to where you can head on over to the Titanic Creations website and grab these for yourself, again, while they last. So make sure you do that, grab them before they sell out, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.